All right, so welcome to our deep dive today, and we're going to be talking about something that's really super important for CBOs,
Okay.
and that is leadership succession planning. And we're
Hmm.
actually looking at some really good training
Yep.
materials that were developed by the Southern Africa Litigation Centre.
Interesting.
And, this is one of those things that often gets overlooked.
Yeah.
Like people are so busy doing the work
Right.
that they're not thinking about like, oh, what happens if I get hit by a bus tomorrow? Or, what if I win the lottery and decide to go, live on an island somewhere?
Right.
Like what happens to the organization?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, succession planning is really all about sustainability, right?
Yeah,
It's about ensuring that the organization can continue to function and thrive even when there are changes in leadership.
exactly. And, it's not just about like replacing a person.
Yeah.
It's about thinking about the future of the organization as a whole.
Absolutely. And this guide really emphasizes that. It talks about creating a plan for identifying and developing future leaders so that the CBO can continue to meet its mission and goals.
It's interesting because they start by talking about some of the misconceptions around succession planning.
Oh, yeah. What are those?
Like, one of the things is that people think it's about competition.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's a race to the top. Who's going to be the next executive director?
Right, right. It creates this kind of like cutthroat environment.
Yeah, exactly. And the guide emphasizes that it's really not about that at all.
Not at all. It's about collaboration and a democratic process. It's about recognizing that leadership is multifaceted
Right.
and that there are many different ways to contribute to the success of an organization.
Yeah, I love how they lay out those basic steps, kind of like a roadmap.
Oh, yeah. What's the first step?
So the first step is identifying the skills and competencies required for leadership at all levels of the organization.
Okay, so it's not just about the top spot.
No, it's about every level,
Right.
because you need leaders at every level to make the organization function effectively.
That makes sense. It's like building a strong foundation, right?
Exactly. And then the next step is to identify capacity needs.
Okay, so that's figuring out where the gaps are.
Yeah. Like, okay, we know what skills we need. Do we have people who have those skills?
Right.
And if not, how do we develop those skills within the organization?
I see. So it's about being really strategic about training and development.
Exactly. And one thing they talk about that I thought was really interesting is taking risks.
Risks with leadership.
Yeah, like letting staff take on new tasks, even if they might not be fully ready.
Oh, that's interesting. I can see how that could be a bit scary.
Yeah, but the guide emphasizes that it's important to give people opportunities to grow.
Yeah. How else will they learn and develop their skills?
Right. It's like that saying, you can't learn to swim without getting in the water.
Exactly. And sometimes you might make a few splashes.
But that's okay. You learn from those mistakes.
Right. And it builds confidence.
Yeah. And the guide also talks about the importance of mentorship and shadow working.
So that's more that hands-on practical approach.
Exactly. It's about having experienced staff members share their knowledge and skills with newer staff.
I love that it's like passing the torch. Ensuring that the institutional knowledge is passed down.
Yeah, and it creates that sense of continuity.
It's like building a legacy.
One thing that really struck me about this guide is that it's not all about skills and tasks.
Oh, yeah. It definitely emphasizes the human element.
Yeah, things like communication, empathy, role modeling.
Right. It's not just about what you do, but how you do it.
Exactly. Like being a leader is about more than just giving orders.
Absolutely. It's about inspiring people, motivating them, creating a positive and supportive work environment.
And the guide even talks about constructive criticism.
Oh, okay, so that's like giving feedback in a way that helps people grow.
Yeah, it's not about being negative or putting people down.
Right. It's about identifying areas for improvement and providing support.
And, that ties back into the whole idea of taking risks. Well, if you're encouraging people to take risks, you also need to create an environment where it's okay to make mistakes.
That makes sense. You have to be able to give and receive feedback in a constructive way.
Exactly. And that's all part of building a culture that supports leadership development.
Yeah. And ultimately, it's about ensuring the long-term success of the CBO.
So what I think is really the key takeaway here is that leadership succession planning, it's not just an event.
Right.
It's a process. It's something that CBOs need to be thinking about all the time.
And it's an investment.
Yeah, an investment in the future of the organization.
Absolutely. So to our listener, think about this. If you were advising a CBO on leadership succession planning, what's the one piece of advice you would give them to start with?
And why?
Yeah, why is that advice so important?
And maybe this deep dive has inspired you to learn more.
Yeah, there's a lot of great resources out there.
So keep exploring and keep learning.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
And we'll see you next time.
See you later.